Good evening, everybody. Welcome here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the Prog Monster. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So today we're starting a new mini series. This is one that Ben gave me about a week or so ago. It took a little bit more time to think about how I wanted to present it. We have finished the other one maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I can't remember now. I know I was sick for the week, so that kind of threw everything out. I'm not sure that I think I might have done that episode the week I was sick. I can't remember. But anyways, gave me this new series of things he thought would be interesting. I've actually done something like this before, but I think it was a one-off show where I talked about 4 or 5 bands that fit into this. So some of these bands I've chosen again for the series, but I find that 6 episodes, 5 or 6 episodes seems to be a good amount. Not too long, not too short, probably holding attention span longest. So, and what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a bit about the transition from one type of music to another type of music, a major transition here. And for the band I've chosen today, coincidentally, is the same band I chose for the last series first, and that is Rush. So Rush, we're going to talk about Rush's transition from what I might call, with this album kind of, so let's just go back a little bit in history. So we go back to 2112, where the synthesizers and keyboards first kind of made their appearance. I don't believe there was any on Caress of Steel or Fly By Night. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there was on either of those albums. So you get to 2112, has that keyboard part on it, and then it multiplies quite a bit onto Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres. So you got a lot of that keyboard part, but there's also the heaviness is kind of still there a little bit, but predominantly those are very progressive rock albums, so there's a lot more of that progressive sound going on those albums. Get to Permanent Waves, the progressing elements are still there. Album gets a little bit heavier again, and the keyboard elements come in. The songs, I think the songs were a bit shorter. Yeah, you had Natural Science and Jacob's Ladder was fairly long, but I think they're starting to coalesce, and they did this, and then they get to Moving Pictures, and all three of these elements are coalesced so that there's a perfect balance in many ways to the album. So you've got shorter songs, more keyboard parts, more little less prog. The heaviness is still kind of there. You've got some other new elements coming in. You did have a little bit of it on Permanent Waves, a little bit of the reggae element coming in, a little bit more of a poppy feel in some of the tracks, but this album absolutely kind of the melding of all the elements to make a perfect album. So I knew once they got through this album, though, that they were not going to go back to the progressive elements that I liked before. They were moving to something else. I wasn't really sure what it was going to be, but I knew I probably wasn't going to like it. So next album up, Signals. So there's still quite a bit of the element that was on the Moving Pictures here. The techno electronic stuff is more dominant on this. Less of the heavy stuff than was previously found on Moving Pictures and Permanent Waves. And the progressive element is also downsized. I wouldn't say the progressive element's gone. It's kind of morphed into something else, where they were doing more science fiction and maybe older, what do you call them, history type things and stuff like that. They were now more prevalent, more modern stuff, more day-to-day kind of talking about day-to-day things in a more progressive element as well. So a really strong album, this one. At the time I liked it a lot, but it's not stood the test of time very well with me. But all the tracks on here are good. I don't think there's anything that I would call bad here at all. But you could see already that the electronic stuff was beginning to take over. The album is not nearly as heavy as it was before either. So this is kind of the transitioning album to me, from the Moving Pictures to the next album, which is Grace Under Pressure. So this album, which I didn't like at all when it came out. In fact, I didn't own it for decades. I wouldn't buy it. I knew that they had, he didn't even have Terry Brown on here. I think this was his last one, if I believe correctly. Yep, doesn't say, but pretty sure he did this one, and then he was not really given the boot, but they wanted to go in a different direction, so they chose somebody else who might fit more to what they wanted to do. And you've got, again, 8 songs, same as this one. Songs are shorter, not nearly as long. Most of them are about the same size. On this album, you've got one that's fairly lengthy, The Weapon, and Digital Man are both 6, but everything else is under that, and this one doesn't even have that. So you've got, at first I never liked this album. For the longest time I never listened to it. To me, this was the beginning of their techno electronic sounding pop music with all kinds of kind of pop themes and stuff like that. Although I do have to admit that the lyrics and the storyline and the progressive lyrics, but even though they were more contemporary lyrics, were quite good on this album, but I just never followed it. This is the beginning of that era that I didn't like, and so they had now gone from being one of the best, heaviest progressive rock bands to this electronic kind of pop shit that they were doing, and I didn't really care for it. So that's where they went with this. But I've since grown to like this album. It's actually getting ready for its turn in my playlist, because I never really owned it before. I never really played, like, I knew all the songs and I've heard them many times. Some of the stuff's quite good on here though. Distant Early Warning, Red Sector A, Body Electric, Red Lenses. These are all really good tracks. Like this album, I actually think I may actually like this more than Signals now. I'm not sure, but I do like this. The album cover's a little bit kind of robotic to me. It's dark. It's a darker album, but yeah. So that's for me the first band in this mini-series, which this mini-series will be called Serious Changes. Sorry, my throat is starting to get dry. So Serious Changes is the name of this series. The first band in it was Rush, and we basically transitioned from a hard progressive rock band to a more electronic or electric or synthesizer-oriented pop band, in my opinion. A pop band with a lot of super skills. Some of the instrumentation on Grace Under Pressure is among their best. Once I started listening to it, I realized how sophisticated the instrumentation is. But I didn't like it at first, I have to admit that. So that's the first band in the series. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. We have 5 more episodes. They will come out each Tuesday for the next 5 more weeks. I've already picked out all 5 of the bands and their transitionary points, and kind of do the same thing we did with this one tonight. I hope you will enjoy this. Please hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so that you don't miss the episodes. And if you want to comment on what I've talked about tonight with Rush, or if you don't want to, sorry, I just wanted to look at something here. If you want to talk about the albums, or if you want to talk about something I said, you can do any of that you want. I'm open to all that. And we will see you next Tuesday for another episode of Serious Changes. Take care and goodbye.